In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Kyuseido Kakari. I'll go over the specs, I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. So this is a Kyuseido, I believe the model is the Kakari. I'm not sure because I don't see this pen on their website anymore. I only see ones that have like titanium caps, blind caps, and sections with the clear barrel. And this was given to me, or was loaned to me rather, by a friend very kindly. And I will confirm with him what this pen is called, and I'll put that up on the screen here if it isn't a Kakari, but that's what I think it is. So these pens are made, I actually don't know where they're made. I don't think they specify where they're made, so my guess is, Taiwan, China, somewhere like that. The company is based in Japan, and the, owner or founder of this company is CY, who ran a really good website called Tokyo Pen Station, and he is a Nibmeister, and really that's kind of the highlight of this pen. Design-wise, it has, a very generic design. We got these very pointy, like sort of funnel-shaped ends here on the piston knob and the cap here. Just very plain design. It tapers towards the top and then towards the tail of the pen here. It's threaded. Now the real star of the show here is this triple stacked nib. Now this is a very special nib. Somehow Kyuseido gets to use sailor nibs. So my understanding is that these are sailor nibs, and they have a very cool design there. The Kyuseido logo, and we can see 14K 585 because this is 14 karat gold. And the main body of the nib here is white color, while the stack is gold. I think that's a very cool look to it. And just the shape of the nib is very interesting. You have, your shoulders here, and then the tines become very, very tight and pointy. It looks pretty cool, pretty unique. If we look at the side of the nib, we can see that triple stack there, and you'll see, if we look carefully, let's see if it'll focus there. We have these three lines horizontal, which shows that it's three nibs stacked together. We have a very nice ebonite feed here, which helps keep up with the ink flow, and we can see the side profile of the tip here. Really, really cool nib, very impressive nib. Now, I don't know the exact price of this particular pen because, again, this model isn't on the website, but for like a titanium one, it's $650 for the pen with a standard nib. Now, once you get to a triple stack nib like this, it's $1,540, so that means it's $890 to have the stack nib in addition to the price of the pen. So very expensive, but this is a wow nib. This is a special nib, and in using it the last couple weeks, I think it's worth the price. Now, the pen itself is neat. I like it. The design is just, very plain. There's no trim on this. It looks like any other kind of generic pen. This could be a Gravitas. This could be, any other pen. So that part I don't necessarily love. Now, the filling system in this pen is interesting, and I'm going to pause the video actually so I can kind of just quickly clean this out and show you how it works. So give me one moment here. So the filling system, this is like a piston pump filling system, and compared to like the Conid bulk filler filling system, this is a lot easier to use, and I wouldn't say that I like this filling system still, but I definitely prefer it to the Conid one by a lot. And this filling system, unlike the Conid one, wouldn't put me off from wanting this pen. So in that sense, it's better. Now, when you are writing with this, because it does kind of have a seal, I did find that unscrewing the blind cap a bit, like on a vacuum filler, was a useful thing to do. So let's talk about the way that this works. We will unscrew this here, and if you can kind of see, let's see if we can get a little bit closer. I don't know how well this is going to focus. Because it's frosted, you don't get the best view. But there's basically a rod in here, and that you can see there's sort of like this star here with three spokes or three arms here. And then if we look up here at the back here, we can see there are these two O-rings, and then there's this metal piece here with these sort of like locking, like hook locking things. Almost reminds me of like the Visconti, I don't know what they call it, like their hook safe capping mechanism, but you kind of have these hooks in here. So you pull this up, and then you line up the spokes so that we're inside that lock there. And then you're going to push, and now you have the seal of these two things here. So you would stick the pen in the bottle of ink, then you draw it up like this, and then you would twist. And then what's nice about this compared to the Conid is there's much less twisting, like in terms of activating and disactivating the plunger. And then so now, because we can see that, right? Here it is locked, we're locked, and now we're unlocked, and I can just push down. One thing I will say about this, and one thing to be careful of, is, once you have like the full fill and you've disconnected sort of the plunger part, when you're pushing this back down, I do find that ink is expelled. Not like lots of it, but you'll get probably 5 or 6 drops of ink while you're securing it. Interestingly, the company lists the ink capacity is 3.5 to 4.2 milliliters of ink. I'm not sure why they give you a range. I don't think that's super normal, but that's really my only gripe with the filling system. I mean, I also just don't really care to have that much ink. Now, with a nib like this, having a big ink capacity is nice. I still just like a regular piston filler. I'm basic, I guess, in that way. But this is, I think, a very good filling system for sure. I definitely prefer it to the Conid one. I think if we could have this nib, this filling system on the Conid body, that would be like a 10 out of 10 pen. This is missing the trim. It's not, made in the same way that the Conid is, but overall, I really like this pen. Now, let's do some measurements. So, the pen, I guess we can do it this way, yeah. We're looking at 43 millimeters long, roughly. And then uncapped, looking at about 136. And posted, I'm not posting this pen because I know the owner of this pen that very nicely lent this to me doesn't post his pens. So I'm not sure about posting. I'm sorry about that. Now, in terms of the grip section, 11.9 at the widest and 10.6 at the narrowest. It does have a interesting taper where it stays quite fat, and then at the very end it tapers in the most before flaring out. So it's not quite like an even hourglass shape. It's very comfortable. The feel of this pen is quite nice. It definitely has some weight to it. I wouldn't say it's super heavy, but it's definitely not a lightweight pen. So about 128, and then with the cap, 135. I didn't find it particularly back heavy. I think it just has to do with the pen not being too long. There is for sure a bunch of metal in the back there, so that definitely gives it, more weight back up here, but comfort-wise, no issues. Now, in terms of comparisons here, in terms of size, so here it is with a Gravitas Monster. This is a much bigger pen with a number 8 nib, bigger ink capacity too. Here it is with a Lummi 2000, and here it is with a TWSBI Eco. So pretty similar size to that. It has a bigger grip section and nib than the TWSBI Eco. I would just call this a solid full-size pen. For the writing sample, I'm going to be using a Papermine Tomoe River hardcover notebook. These notebooks are excellent with fountain pens, and for Blake's broadcast viewers and subscribers, you can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. The Kyuseido Kakari, I think. And this is their triple or 3-stack nib. And this is Parker washable blue. Try fast writing. Not gonna go too crazy here. No performance issues. This nib is really, really good. The downstroke is quite thin. Or I would say actually that's maybe like a medium, and then the cross stroke is like a triple or quadruple broad. Now, if you angle the pen up, you get a much finer line, and then if you go low, let's see, there's a point where it becomes too low. That's too low, but this is about the max width there. So you get that, which is a nice option to have. Reverse writing, very fine. It's not particularly scratchy for how fine this is. You can definitely do that and get a finer line, I think, than, well, if you hold it up at an angle, you get a pretty fine line too. Really like this nib. It seems like it's really well put together. I do like that we have a Sailor stack here, which is pretty special, I think. So what are my pros and cons for the Kyuseido Kakari fountain pen? Well, this triple stack nib is fantastic. I really, really like it. I do think that the interesting like piston pump filling mechanism is quite good if you're into this kind of filling system. It's definitely better from a user perspective than the coned bulk filler system because you can clearly see what is happening with the spokes and these sort of hooks that grab onto the piston pump portion of the filling system, and there's less, just general ambiguity visually and feedback wise. This is an easier system to use, and you do get a very good fill with it. The pen itself is very comfortable. I really like the shape of this grip section. It works very, very nicely. It's just a nice, comfortable pen with a fantastic nib. Now, in terms of cons, I don't know where these pens are made. They don't say where they're made. I'm guessing not Japan, otherwise they would say they're made in Japan. The design of this is very generic looking. The part that I have appreciation for, I think, is the grip section and the filling mechanism. Those are interesting and they, seem to be very well thought out. The rest of the pen is very plain looking. This could be a Gravitas, this could be a Asvine. There's not really anything too special looking here. There's no roll stop, there's no clip, so this can for sure roll on the desk, which you don't want to happen, especially if you got a nib this nice on the pen. Um, don't love that. This pen with a standard nib, well, I should say I don't know how much this pen costs in this configuration. The cheapest ones that I see are titanium. They have titanium caps, piston knobs, and sections. Those are $650. That's kind of a lot for a pen that looks like this, I think. You do get that cool filling system, which is special. So I think you could justify that. The nib on this is $890 on top of the price of the pen. That's a lot. You like the way that the pen writes with, that stack, kind of like a big architect nib. I think it's a pretty fantastic pen. It's special in the sense that they have their own nib engraving. It's not a cheap laser engraving. It's gold. It's Sailor nibs. It has a unique shape. I'm very impressed with the nib. So it's expensive, but I think the nib is worth it. That's pretty much it. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.